it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was playing, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Guardians, despite being at home in the land, were a home underdog against Tarek Skubal. Enter Lane Thomas, maybe one of the under-the-radar trade deadline acquisitions being dealt from the Nationals. He was huge in the ALDS.
A heavy favorite for the New York Yankees in the series. You're going to look to their best two ball players to be those MVPs. That's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Donnie?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Hour number 2 is officially underway right here on the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159 right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's a glorious Wednesday morning. The topics continue to fly. Hour number 1 was sensational. Anytime we can talk NFL, and it's not just about scores itself. You know the NFL is doing good things, and Tuesdays are always giving us great advice on what we can look forward to this weekend. But Dubsy, today on a Wednesday, I'm feeling good about hour number 2, and these hot topics continue to hit like Mike Tyson out here.
Locked and loaded. And I'm not going to pump our tires, Donnie, but I feel like we're seeing it well. Yeah. We saw him well through that first hour. Some great wagering coming up here for your happy hump day. So let's keep that mojo moving in the right direction. No days off in the weight room. No days off for you sports fans or sports bettors. So no shortage, Johnny. Let's get after it. Our number 2 on deck.
I mean, let's go right now. And also, some of the hottest topics we've been talking about are players changing teams. Now we're going to talk about teams changing the guard at quarterback. Let's set the stage for this one. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the offseason, Mike Tomlin told you, Russell Wilson is my starting quarterback. I don't care that Justin Fields is on this roster. I don't care that Justin Fields might be a better quarterback. Russell Wilson is my starter day number 1. Now, day number 1 in the NFL is week number 1. Russell Wilson wasn't the starter. It wasn't because of bad play. It was because Russell Wilson got injured. Now Russell Wilson is getting healthier. Tom Pelissero yesterday. How about this? Sources. The Steelers plan to give Russell Wilson first-team reps in practice this week, putting him in line to start to make his season debut and start Sunday night versus the Jets. Pittsburgh is 4-2 with Justin Fields, but Wilson's calf is fully healed, and now he gets his shot. Let's start there. Fields has been a starter. Fields has the Steelers in the right direction with his record, but now it looks like Russell Wilson is ready. Russ was supposed to be the starter. Russ is now healthy. Should Russ be the starting quarterback this week, Dubsy, for those Steelers?
No, he shouldn't, Donnie. And maybe that's, me being a little cynical. But, I mean, you look at Russell Wilson and you look at Justin Fields. It's the same quarterback. They've both got the same issues, except one is 10 years younger with a bit more athleticism in the pocket. You've got, a 35-year-old Russell Wilson returning from injury, and he's expected to do better than what we've seen from Justin Fields. I mean, you're as good as that win record suggests, and that's the only column that should matter. And they're sitting, at 4-2 alongside Baltimore there in the AFC North. I really don't think Russell Wilson is going to come in and suddenly make this offense, put up 40 points. That's not the way that Mike Tomlin would want the Steelers to play. It's just not what we expect from the quarterbacks over there in Pittsburgh. They play hard-nosed football. They're going to set that table with the run game. They're gritty. It's going to be a low-scoring arm wrestle, but I get why we've got to see Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback. For Pittsburgh, they brought in both quarterbacks, bargain basement deals, if you will. You've only really got one season to try and figure out what you do have there under the hood. And for Russell Wilson, what would have to go in favor? He would certainly have to turn the clock back and show us some of those prime years that we saw up in Seattle. We certainly didn't get it in Denver, and I just don't think he's got it anymore. I think for Russell Wilson and the way in which he plays that style of football where he needs to get out and use the wheels out of the backfield, I just don't think he's got it anymore, Donnie. So I don't agree with the decision, but I understand why the Pittsburgh need to see what they've really got with Russell Wilson. If he's a bust, if the best years are behind him, well, they can say, let's move on to the next one. But both quarterbacks really trying to find something at different points in their careers. And for Justin Fields, you look at the numbers, hasn't been electric, but well done. Gets the wins. You can certainly build on this moving forward. The passing game has been a little mediocre, but look at the interceptions. For me, that spells improvement from Justin Fields.
Justin Fields is a really good backup quarterback, and I'll start with that here, which means he wasn't supposed to be the starter entering into the season. But if you're going to roll and say, I'm going to play 6 games and my backup is going to go 4-2, I love to see that. Now, let's take a look at moving forward and what makes the most sense. Look at the Steelers' schedule. The Falcons opening day, that's a good win. They didn't score a touchdown in that game, but at the same time, you're going and saying, all right, what are we going to do here with Justin Fields? He's winning football games and Russ isn't ready. You start him the next week. The Broncos, rookie quarterback. The following week after that, the Chargers at home. Herbert leaves that game midway. They were a banged-up walking unit, mash unit. You lose to the Colts on the road. You lose to the Cowboys at home. You beat the horrendous Raiders team. And I'm not taking anything away from Justin Fields. You're only asked to win football games, and he was doing that. But if we do look at those statistics, you say, okay, 1,100 passing yards here. In today's modern NFL, 184 yards per game, probably not going to get the job done. Yes, he does have 10 total touchdowns, which you love, and only 1 interception, but he has fumbled the football multiple times. But if you are looking at games where he's had 4 games under 160 yards passing, you're not going to get yourself to the Pantheon by doing that here. I understand it wins football games early, but you face a football team, which they're going to get better throughout the season and certainly much better in the playoffs. You have to have that stable passing game. So when I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and say to myself, Russell Wilson can probably open up the passing game. And I'm not talking about, hey, Russ is going to come in and throw for 325 every game. That's not really the Steelers' MO. But when you watch the Steelers play, I just want to make sure my quarterback, Dubsy, makes the simple throw and can be a point guard, which means I drop back to pass, a guy is open 10 yards down the field, I easily hit him, he turns around, gains an extra 3 to 4 yards. You watch way too many times with Justin Fields, just plays that are there to be made and passes that are nowhere near a stationary wide receiver. But also, if Russell Wilson comes in as your starting quarterback, Dubsy, I love the fact that you can still have those short yardage packages, which include midfield, 30-yard line, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, red zone opportunities like you see Taysom Hill and why that offense makes sense when Hill is running it in New Orleans in those short yardage spots here. I think this is a win-win situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dubs. I'm buying this move. And also for Mike Tomlin, who seemingly only cares about winning games in the regular season and keeping his winning record intact. I think this is a pretty bold move for him.
It is a bold move, and that's why Mike Tomlin's considered to be one of the best in the business. There is that record, 4-2 through the first 6 weeks, minus 144 for the Steelers to make that playoff run. But I tell you what, Donnie, if it is this weekend that we get to see Danger Russ back cooking at quarterback, look at the next few weeks here. I mean, they take on the Jets in week 7. It's the Giants, Commanders, Ravens. They've got the Bengals 2 weeks to follow after that. So it's not going to be an easy month of football. For Russell Wilson, he's going to have to find that top gear pretty fast, because if he doesn't come in, if he comes in and he is a bust and they get smoked, the next 2 or 3 weeks, then what's going to be the next step for Mike Tomlin? Do you say, well, okay, Russ is going to go back to the bench there. We bring in Justin Fields and we're trying to make a bit of a playoff push here, because right now, the only way that the season can go for the Steelers is south. I mean, and if Russ comes in and they can't keep this momentum or keep it above 500, he's going to be pointed at as the guy to come in and let him down.
And if we look at the games coming up, right, because it is the Jets, and that's the focal point. It's Sunday Night Football. It's great theater, too. Devontae Adams coming over to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers needing a victory. Now you have a quarterback controversy in Pittsburgh. But before we even get to the quarterback controversy, is Russell Wilson, in your mind, going to start that football game against the Jets?
I think he will, Donnie. I think, they've bided their time. They've given him, 6 weeks now to get back to 100% full health. And I think this is the spot, for the Steelers, primetime showing against the Jets, get Dangerous back out there. And it goes both ways. You want to see what you've got from Russell Wilson at this point in his career, but you've also seen enough from Justin Fields. It's not like he's going to develop into this fantastic passer and suddenly start exploding. He's had 6 weeks. He's been competent. He's been efficient, but the ceiling is only so high. So if Russell Wilson was healthy a couple of weeks ago, and the mail was he was getting closer and closer to being back there at full billing, this is the spot. Jets, week 7, Aaron Rodgers. I feel like we're going back 5 years to seeing these quarterbacks back in their prime, but Russell Wilson, he reckons he's still got it. Let's see it, Donnie.
Yeah, let's see if he does have it, because also he is going to be under a lot of pressure in game number 1 versus the Jets, because I think a lot of the public's going to say, well, Fields was winning football games. Russ, you better come in. 20 and 25 out of the pocket, 250-plus yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a Pittsburgh win, because maybe you get the Boo Birds out there in the Steel City. Awesome stuff in the NFL. The train continues to roll next right here on the early line.
Guardians, despite being at home in the land, were a home underdog against Tarek Skubal. Enter Lane Thomas, maybe one of the under-the-radar trade deadline acquisitions being dealt from the Nationals. He was huge in the ALDS.
A heavy favorite for the New York Yankees in the series. You're going to look to their best 2 ball players to be those MVPs. That's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We're not even previewing football games. There's so much action off the field in the NFL. It's what we love. It's 365. It's all the way around the clock, 24/7. The hot topics continue to come in. And when they do that, what do we like to do on the early line? We love to get into the conversation and get after it. Stubbs Anderson, it's Donnie Rightside. It's a Wednesday morning right here on the SportsGrid Network. And Tom Brady, how about this? It's official. No longer going to be playing football. Why? Because he is a team owner. Ari Mirov tweeted out yesterday, NFL owners have approved Tom Brady as a minority owner of the Raiders, per Albert Breer. Brady steps into the front office here while still holding down a job calling games in the NFL, Dubs.
At 47 years of age, so it's now official that Tom Brady's not coming back to lace up the boots on a Sunday and resurrect the chances on the gridiron. But I think it's exciting. And, Tom Brady, one of the most marketable athletes that we've seen over the last, couple of decades. It's a sign of the times there. And I by all reports, Donnie, this is a fantastic business decision. If you can get a stake in an NFL team, you can just watch that money continue to double up, and it's no small sum of change, if you will, there. So well done to Tom Brady. Well done to the Raiders. It tells us, how excited one of the greats is in trying to continue this sport. And I think there is so much global appeal behind the National Football League, and becomes just the third player in history to now take up ownership, being a part of that group that takes that 10% stake. So I think it's exciting. We need to see more of it, but it sounded like there was a bit of hesitation there, especially from some of the other owners, how it would really look moving forward and how that role in the booth would really affect for Tom Brady moving forward. But, I mean, he's getting paid up in the booth. He's now got his own NFL team. This guy, I mean, he's too good to be true, Donnie. A little jealous, a little envious, if you will. But, I guess great news if you're a Raiders fan. It's only going to help the brand.
Exactly. Making money off the field and also working in the booth, making like $30 million a year. But I always love X because what happens is the responses are fantastic. Like Ari Mirov tweets out, owners can't be players, and Brady is now officially an NFL owner. You slide down a couple slots. Somebody says not true. Mahomes has actually owned the Raiders for years and is still playing. So you always get those quality responses
I like
back.
that.
But also,
I like that.
How about this one, Dubsy? Tom Brady, great quarterback, now an owner, but does call games in the NFL. There's a conflict of interest here because since he's an owner of the Raiders, he's not now supposed to be in the team meetings. And someone says, what do you mean he's in the team meetings? In order to get a great broadcast, usually late in the week, the team will come up, whether it be the color guy and or the play-by-play. They'll sit in the meeting with the head coaching staff, and the head coaching staff will tip their hand. Hey, guys, we got an awesome play coming up in the second quarter. When you see trips right formation, we're going to run a reverse pass here. That way you can tee them up in the booth so they can call it efficiently. Or let's just say, Dubsy, in the fourth quarter, you're looking to do a fake punt. Hey, guys, keep in mind, if we're down 7 points or more in the fourth quarter and we're punting from our side of the field, we're going to fake it. Now they're saying that's a conflict of interest because Tom Brady's an owner in the Raiders, and he'll get that information ahead of time and can spread it around, which you're not supposed to do. Any thoughts on that, Dubsy, where Brady maybe can't be in on these meetings, pre-production late in the week?
Yeah, and I mean, we know Tom Brady's not going to be taking the pen and paper and running back to tell, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell in the quarterback room, this is what you can expect to see, as they're trying to scheme up there. But no, he shouldn't be allowed to be in the building. I mean, we think about all the time, Tony Romo's coming up with these call-by-calls. Like, how did he come up? How did he know that they were going to, fan too wide and try and run into the house that way? Well, it's exactly why. I mean, they get all this inside analysis, which really helps the broadcast, through prime time on Sunday afternoon. Is that going to affect or hamper Tom Brady? Maybe a little bit, but he's got so much knowledge. He's one of the best to ever do it. I don't think that's going to slow him down. But no, I'm going to be that guy, Donnie. I'd say Tom Brady should not be allowed in the building as they're going over that. I think it certainly is a conflict of interest. I don't think he would ever go on to use that, against any of these teams that he's getting set to prepare for. But this is something that, when they're scheming up that broadcast deal, which, again, in excess of, $300 million for 10 years to have Tom Brady in the booth, it's something that should have been discussed back then.
Absolutely. But here goes Brady, the face of the NFL, more ways than one now. But let's also take a look at some other scheduling changes, maybe conflicts of interest. How about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals moving out of their 425 slot to now be placed at 1 o'clock? Why? Because the NFL can't get enough of the number 1 overall pick versus the number 2 overall pick. It's the Bears and the Commanders. Next week, Dubsy, go from 1 o'clock back to 425. Caleb versus Jaden Daniels. Prime time, middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, and this is what you want to see. I think this is fantastic. 2 of the superstar young quarterbacks, and I feel like we've been pretty spoiled this year, Donnie. I mean, how many 1-2 punches have actually landed over the last decade? 2 quarterbacks coming into the NFL and having such success out the gates, and I throw Bo Nix in the conversation as well. He hasn't been too far behind, but what a matchup this would be for the Bears sitting at 4-2, the Commanders only having 2 losses to match as well. Who should have been the number 1 draft pick coming into this season. If you look at the numbers, if you stack them up side by side, you could make a really good argument that Jaden Daniels should have been that guy, and he is playing every bit of the superstar that we thought he was. You look at the yards, you look at the completion percentages, some really strong numbers, and for King Caleb continues to impress. So two teams that I didn't have on the bingo card, being 4-2 coming into week 7, Donnie, but for this one, going into not week 7, but into week 8, this will be a fantastic matchup, and this is what we want to see. It's what the young fans want to see. Caleb Williams squaring off against Jaden Daniels, two very, very exciting quarterbacks who are having great years.
I'm not a younger fan, Dubsy. I don't want to see this. I got to travel a long distance on Sunday. So I look at this and go, I'm actually going to get to watch my Philadelphia Eagles. Now I get to get home midway through the third quarter and watch probably the Bengals beat the Eagles, which is a double disaster result. I'll tell you what's not a disastrous result. Super Bowl coming up in 2028. Welcome to Atlanta, Dubsy. Shaking it down south in the Big A.
Back to the ATL, baby.
Yeah.
It is going to be hot. Could the Falcons and Kirk Cousins be there to get the home crowd a bit of a victory? Do we know who's in line for the halftime show, Donnie? But it's a great call. Luda! Get a couple of cans of Coke in the mix as well. I think it's great. Let's get it across the country, back to the ATL for 2028.
Now, look, it should always be on the Eastern Seaboard, Dubs. I know you love the West Coast here, but we don't like getting up at like 1 a.m. to prepare for a radio show. Every Super Bowl should be on the East Coast so the early line can still relax. More NFL topics coming up next. It doesn't end. It's the early line.
Guardians, despite being at home in the land, were a home underdog against Tarek Skubal. Enter Lane Thomas, maybe one of the under-the-radar trade deadline acquisitions being dealt from the Nationals. He was huge in the ALDS.
A heavy favorite for the New York Yankees in the series. You're going to look to their best two ball players to be those MVPs. That's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Oh, we talked a lot of off-the-field issues and a lot of off-the-field things that could go right and could go wrong for organizations. We talked about Tom Brady in the booth now as an owner. Let's get on to the gridiron, Dubsy, itself. Because why? We got football starting up once again in the NFL tomorrow night. That's the Denver Broncos and the New Orleans Saints. And if we look at the FanDuel Sportsbook and take a look at the odds, the Saints are dogs at home, getting 2.5 points in a total of 36.5. Spencer Rattler, the rookie, going up against Bo Nix, the rookie, on a Thursday night, Dubsy. How we feeling about New Orleans on a Thursday?
I think it's going to be fantastic. Welcome home to the Big Easy. Sean Payton, the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. Look, I've been buying in. I've been buying the Broncos stock. I guess it was a bit of a letdown spot going against the Chargers there last week, but they really found a bit of offense late in that fourth quarter. A little surprised here at the number, Donnie. You know, the Saints didn't look fantastic. By all reports, it sounds like Spencer Rattler will be the starting quarterback out there at the Dome coming in for Thursday Night Football. But I thought it may have been down to 1.5 there. We're still covered there by the field goal. But for the Denver Broncos, minus 138 as your favorites going into a hostile environment, you know, for Sean Payton making that return, I think there's going to be a lot of juice in the building. I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup for two teams who need to find that spark. You know, the Broncos, they've been doing it in sort of that rock fight style, that arm wrestle. They're trying to get you in the low scorer. And for the Saints, they started off the year, you know, what they scored 91 points through the first couple of games. They've now lost star quarterback Derek Carr for a bit of time with that oblique injury, but we know they've got those vertical weapons and can score in bunches. I think it's going to be a close game. I love the Broncos in this spot, prime time. Two teams are absolutely going to be charged up for a monster Thursday night.
Yeah, Rattler got that first start last weekend, and what a crazy, wild game it was versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dubs. You watched the actual lead at the half that was held by the Saints. They didn't even score in the second half, and an easy blowout victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then you had Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos who were underdogs in their own building against the Chargers coming off a bye. The Chargers dismantled them. Now look at the final score. It was a little bit closer. They scored late in that game, but you got two teams that are looking for bounce-back efforts on a Thursday night, one to play out. Two rookie quarterbacks passing props to the FanDuel Sportsbook, 185, I believe, and 180. So can one of these two quarterbacks get over the hump here and say, you know what, I'm going to throw over 200-plus yards and 2 touchdowns and maybe not turn the football over? That certainly would go a long way. Now, game number 2 we're going to talk about here, a Super Bowl rematch. That is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Currently at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, a slight favorite for the 49ers at 1.5 and a total 47.5. Unbeaten Kansas City off a bye. The one thing we know about Andy Reid off a bye, damn near unbeatable, Dubsy.
And there's still a lot of pundits saying that this is not the best team in football. What else do we need to see? Even despite all the injuries, they're sitting there with an undefeated record. They're coming into this one fresh. The 49ers have underwhelmed. They're playing banged up. They've got question marks on who's actually going to be out there in the mix, but they're sitting at 3-3. So I like this spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is going to have them fired up for a big performance. For the 49ers, you know, if the Cowboys have been a little disappointing, the 49ers not too far behind them from what we have seen. They started to get things going in the right direction over Seattle with that 36-24 victory, but really tough for me in trying to play against the Chiefs in a big spot like this one up there in Santa Clara. They're going to be primed up for the occasion. They make it 6-0 remaining as maybe the only team undefeated once it's all said and done here for Week 7, Donnie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, too, who plays running back for the San Francisco 49ers. Mason, as we saw in their last game, you know, getting that shoulder damage just a bit, that AC joint sprain. You take a look at Christian McCaffrey, probably not going to still be back for at least a few more weeks. But if you are looking at the standings, the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West, a perfect 5-0, 2-game lead over the Chargers, and also a 3-game lead or so over the Broncos. And then, of course, the Raiders behind them. You're looking at the 49ers, gridlock there in the NFC West. 3-3 49ers, 3-3 Seahawks, 2-4 Cardinals, then the 1-4 Rams here. Keep in mind from a 49ers look here, Dubs, they play this week going up against the Kansas City Chiefs off of a bye. And how about next week? Off of a bye, the Dallas Cowboys. So when you do have one of the best records in football the year previous, the NFL usually likes to pay you back, and they are going to do that. So the outlooks, because when it's all said and done, the Kansas City Chiefs have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We always love that. But the 49ers, this just feels like a spot that they need to rise up and say, man, I don't care what you're talking about. We're going to take this game and certainly start to get on a run. What do you think about getting on a run for the 49ers here, Dubsy?
It's not going to be an easy run, Donnie. If they can, this is the buy low spot. Chiefs, Cowboys, Brock Purdy, he's going to have to be that guy. Lead them through all of these injury concerns and just try and find that momentum. Drop this one. You're playing catch-up football.
The National League playoffs back. It's baseball. We're going to talk next right here on the Early Line.
Guardians, despite being at home in the land, were a home underdog against Tarek Skubal. Enter Lane Thomas, maybe one of the under-the-radar trade deadline acquisitions being dealt from the Nationals. He was huge in the ALDS.
A heavy favorite for the New York Yankees in the series. You're going to look to their best two ball players to be those MVPs. That's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The crisp weather of fall always means football, but at the same time, Dubs, it also means playoff baseball as we're getting ready for a possible World Series that could be East Coast, West Coast. Could we have some upsets? Could we have a team from the Heartland come back and knock down the New York Yankees? We'll find out. But let's focus here on the National League. We're tied at 1 now after an impressive victory for the New York Mets over the Los Angeles Dodgers in game number 2. Mark Vientos early on with a grand slam, helping pave the way. Before we get to the game tonight, Dubsy, and break that down, let's take a look at where we sit in the NLCS right now. The Dodgers are still the favorite, despite this series being 1-1 and the next 3 games playing in Queens. The Dodgers minus 156, the Mets at a plus 132 price. Let's sit there first. Number 1, Dubsy, do you agree the Dodgers should be the favorite in the series, despite it being 1-1? And also, which side would you might be looking towards for the rest of this series here?
I agree with the odds makers. Donnie, if you look at the series with 2 games being in the books, we've now got a best of 5. And as you highlight, the next 3 are going to be out there at Citi Field. So I think the Mets have got a really good chance of doing a bit of damage here, especially in their ballpark and hopefully trying to claim this series. I mean, it pains me to say that, but I think the Dodgers are up on the ropes, and the Mets have shown us time and time again here in 2024 that as soon as you count them out, they just turn it back and punch you right in the throat. And we saw that in game 2, returning serve 7-3 over the Dodgers. So I like the look of the Mets. You've got plus money. You've got the next 3, so you can really try and build a bit of momentum in your building. If they pick up 2 of the next 3, I think they've got a really good chance being a team, a side, an offense that can play in any park, especially out on the West Coast at Dodger Stadium. So I like the plus money. I like the look of the Mets. I cannot believe I'm saying that, Donnie, going against my hometown Dodgers here, but I just think the way the series looks to play out, the arms for LA just been a little spotty. That's going to be the play for me.
We talk about resiliency, and that's certainly what the New York Mets have become here in 2024. A baseball team over the summer where they're trading away their older assets, just looking to get younger, play it out, and maybe hit the free agency market at the end of 2024. Hasn't been the case. They caught fire at the end of the season, played their way into a play-in game on a Monday, played their way then into the playoffs, then knocking off the Philadelphia Phillies, the Milwaukee Brewers, and you get beat 9-0 in game number 1 of the NLCS. Mets, thanks for playing morning. Thanks for coming along. And then the Mets return that favor in game number 2. It's going to be a crazy scene at Citi Field. That New York crowd is going to be ready for the Los Angeles Dodgers. That East Coast, West Coast thing, it always plays into it. But if we are looking at the series itself, Dubsy, 2 games played in L.A., 3 games now going to be played at Citi Field, and then 2 games, if needed, back in Los Angeles. The number for the series to end, 5.5 games, to the over, it's hefty at a minus 350 price. The under at a plus 270. To me, this screams extended series for me, Dubsy.
It really does. Games 5.5. Let's send the overs there. Be a nice little series, wouldn't it, Donnie? Dodgers, Mets going all the way to 7 games. But I do think that the upper hand, the advantage squarely looks to be pointed towards the Mets. And I think they've got a really good chance in game 3 if they can take 2 of the next 3 at Citi before coming back out to the West Coast. I think they've got a shot at trying to finish this thing off. And, for the Dodgers, they've got that pedigree, they've got that star power, but they've also got that ability to just go missing at times. And, the resiliency and that moxie, that grit that you highlighted from the Mets, it looks to be tailor-made for October baseball. We've seen that through the last couple of weeks, and I don't think they're going to be, deterred by the situation, at least not overawed by it. And if you look at the teams remaining out of the 4, who's the pressure on? Who's got the most to lose going into this series? And it's going to be the Dodgers again for Dave Roberts. They spent all this money and it's the starting arms, which I think are going to be the concern for this series, trying to take down the Mets. So give me New York, give me a series that goes the distance. Let's get it to a game 7. But I think the Mets could have a good chance of prevailing, even if it does come out here to the West Coast to finish off.
Yeah, game 3 can really shift the balance of power in a 7-game series, particularly if the Mets get this win, because then you're starting to worry about if the games will actually get back to Dodger Stadium. But I do think it's going to be extended. I do think it makes it back to Dodger Stadium, which is great for baseball and probably means we're having a great series. Let's look forward to the NLCS MVP odds right now, which are a little bit more balanced than what we saw from the New York Yankees series. Why? Because the Yankees have a 2-0 lead over the Cleveland Guardians. You take a look at the NLCS MVP odds at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Ohtani, no surprise, the favorite at a plus 240 price. Francisco Lindor plus 390. Mookie Betts at 8-1, along with Mark Vientos at 8-1 as well. Any looks here, Dubsy, from the MVP market for you between these two teams?
No, I mean, I think they're pretty good numbers there as well, especially at the top of the board. It makes a lot of sense. Ohtani continues to deliver here for the Dodgers, but they're going to have to, obviously get through the Mets here. But I think Lindor at plus 390, the consistency is there. He's, big game player, if you will, and we've seen that in the last 2 series. So I think plus 390 for Franny Lindor there. That's be the play for me. Mookie Betts, he seems to have been finding a bit of confidence in the last week there, plus 800. That's a pretty good number. Polar Bear Pete, he would have to do a lot of damage against some really tough aces there. So if you're looking for a player like Big Polar Bear Pete going against some really tough arms, it's no surprise he's a bit of a price. So we're at this point of the season, where we sit currently in this series, Donnie, I don't mind the top of the board, especially when you're getting that really good value there. Even Ohtani at that number, it's a good price if you think the Dodgers can go on to win this one.
All right, let's flip it over to tonight, and we're taking a look here in the Northeast. And I said it is cooler conditions. First pitch will be about 51 degrees. By the end of the game, it's going to be in the mid-40s here. No precipitation, which is fantastic, but we are seeing a light wind blowing in around 7 to 8 miles an hour from left field. Could that maybe knock down one of those home runs into a warning track ball? We'll find out. But this game tonight going to start, Dubsy, 8:08 Eastern. It's going to be Walker Buehler on the mound for the Dodgers going up against Luis Severino of the New York Mets. The FanDuel Sportsbook opened this, Dubs, at a minus 112 price as a slight favorite for the Dodgers. That's really flipped over now as we see the Mets update here as a minus 112 favorite, and also across the board, minus 115 starting to come up here. So it is looking like it's going to be a Mets favorite. Now, things can change over the afternoon. We get that. A total that's listed at 7.5. Playoff baseball, typically, we have those lower totals. So before I get into some of the statistics tonight, this is a pivotal game number 3, Dubsy. What do you think happens tonight between Buehler and Severino?
It's going to be a fantastic showdown between these starting arms as well. I like the fact that for Dave Roberts had the chance there to get Walker Buehler out for game 2, but they decided to keep the big fella back and holding him for game 3. A very good chance of going on the road in a big postseason showdown like we get for this one. So that tells us that they're confident that Walker Buehler has the stuff to take command of this game. And for Walker Buehler, it's been, an up and down roller coaster season, but you cannot question the class. And I do think it could prevail here this afternoon. For Luis Severino, comes into this one 9 days well rested, so he's going to be chomping at the bit to get out there for the Mets. I think it's two arms who are looking to prove themselves in October once again. I think it's spot on there. The odds makers have it listed as a pick 'em. This feels like a game, Donnie, where it's just going to be decided one connect of the bat, maybe a little house call, if you will, late in the 7th, late in the 8th, low scorer that's going to reflect more of a soccer score. But I like the chances for Walker Buehler getting that start out there for the Dodgers, but Luis Severino not going to be an easy out there for the Mets. So I think it's going to be a close one, low scorer, 2-1, 3-1.
I think there are some ins for some of these pitchers to get after. You take a look at Walker Buehler, who wasn't great this season, but if we just focus on the past 30 days, 67 batters he's faced, Dubsy, really dominant against left-handed batters, but not so dominant against right-handed batters. A 200 ISO power number against the righties and a 407 weighted on base percentage. So Vientos and Pete Alonso would be right in the square for me. Flip it over to Luis Severino, really dominant over the past month, Dubsy, against right-handed batters, but struggled immensely against lefties. You know some of the lefties in that lineup: Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Gavin Lux, Tommy Edman, a switch hitter, will bat from the left-hand side. So I do think there's some ins here for RBIs and base hits in this pivotal game tonight. More Major League Baseball talk next. How about the World Series? Yeah, let's hit that.
Guardians, despite being at home in the land, were a home underdog against Tarek Skubal. Enter Lane Thomas, maybe one of the under-the-radar trade deadline acquisitions being dealt from the Nationals. He was huge in the ALDS.
A heavy favorite for the New York Yankees in the series. You're going to look to their best two ball players to be those MVPs. That's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Two really good series this year in the LCS, both in the American League and the National League. We know in the National League it's 1-1, and it is a pivotal game number 3 tonight. We want to see the Cleveland Guardians, as fans, climb back in that series against the Yankees, but obviously, if you have tickets on the Yankees, if you're Yankees fans, you don't ever want the Guardians to climb back in that series. You want it over as soon as possible. Now, granted, if we're looking at both of these series, it probably looks just the way it stands right now. The Yankees series is going to be over before the Dodgers and the Mets series, but a lot of things could change over the next few days, which is why we're going to take a look at the World Series odds and how those prices might shift over the next couple days, which include tonight's game between the Dodgers and the New York Mets. If we're looking at the odds right now, of course, the Yankees, a minus 105 price to win the World Series, followed by the Dodgers at plus 175, and the Mets at plus 440, and also the Guardians at 16-1. Why are those prices sit there? Well, because the Yankees have a 2-0 series lead and look like they're probably going to make it to the World Series much easier than the Dodgers, who are 1-1 now on the road to take on the New York Mets. Let's start here with the top of the standings. Yankees and the Dodgers, minus 105, plus 175. Any takers for you, Dubsy, on who's going to win the World Series at those price points?
I think they're short, but obviously, the Yankees have the upper hand of where they currently sit in their series, so no surprises. They're sitting right around minus 105 as the top choice to take out the World Series. The Dodgers at plus 175, if you think they can rally and clean up, I guess, the best of 5 coming up against the Mets, but I think it's the Mets that stands out as the value play on this board. I mean, it's a 4-horse race, if you will, and you're still getting plus 440 for the Mets, who are currently sitting at 1 apiece with the Dodgers, taking the next 3 back to New York in their building. If you think the Dodgers could be a little vulnerable and be a chance of an upset, I think it's going to be the Mets as that money play. Plus 440 for the Guardians. I think we can put a strike through them. Don't want to be that guy, but I just don't see a way in which they can get back into their series and topple the Yankees. So I think the odds makers have got it spot on. But for me, Donnie, it's the Mets as the standout player, plus 440, banking off the thought process that I think they can roll the Dodgers in this series.
Yeah, because if they can do that, that's a great hedge ticket at the plus 440 price. Because, if they get to the World Series and let's just say they play the Yankees, they're going to be an underdog, but they're not going to be a plus 440 underdog if they do take on the Yankees. And, of course, if they take on the Guardians, they're going to be the favorites probably over the Guardians after the Guardians, even though beat the Yankees, you still probably look at a much more favored environment if the Mets end up beating the Dodgers. So a lot to be determined there. 16-1 for the Guardians is a long price. But the reason you're getting that is you absolutely need a win in game number 3. If we're looking forward to some of those advanced odds just in game number 3 for that Yankees-Cleveland game, Clark Schmidt versus Boyd, it's a 7.5 total, but also a slight favorite towards the Yankees. If you can get a Cleveland win, that number is probably going to be chopped in half, and rightfully so. But if we're just looking for World Series impact, I do think the Yankees get there, which is half the battle. As I said, Dubsy, you can't win a World Series unless you're actually playing in the World Series. That's why they're priced at 105, that 2-0 series lead. We're factoring on them actually being there. But once we get to the World Series, the Dodgers at a plus 175 price. If they do get there, the Dodgers would be favored to win the World Series. So for me, even though it is a lower price, I think the Dodgers do end up beating the New York Mets. But let me say this. Walker Buehler's on the mound today. 2 years ago, I'd be like, you know what? He's going to absolutely pummel that Mets lineup. He's going to be filthy. He's going to be dominant. He's better than Severino. I almost want to say like the winner of this game number 3 in that Mets-Dodgers series is going to win that series, because if the Mets win tonight, take that 2-1 series lead with 2 more games still being played at Citi Field, that's going to be incredible and a lot more pressure on the Los Angeles Dodgers. But if we are talking about the World Series and who wants to be Mr. October / Mr. November, that's the MVP of the World Series, and rightfully so. The best odds team to get there is the Yankees at minus 105 at FanDuel. Therefore, Aaron Judge is a plus 480 price over Shohei Ohtani's 5-1 price. Just thinking about ease of getting there. If we're looking at that market, and again, the World Series MVP odds has zero bearing, Dubsy, on how well you've played throughout the playoffs. It only matters in the World Series. So you might say, like, I'm not taking Aaron Judge. Guy's found like 160. No. It's just the World Series alone. So who would have your eye in this World Series MVP market?
I think Juan Soto plus 550. That'd be the spot for me. Aaron Judge, you're going to be short. Did he really find that spark, last night? How much more of that as he got up the sleeve? He would have to be fantastic. And for a lot of these bats, they're now going against the best pitchers in baseball, so it doesn't get any easier. And if you want to correlate it, obviously you'd be looking at a player who's going to have to play in the World Series. And if I'm big on the Mets to beat the Dodgers, survive, advance, it's probably going to have to be thanks to Pete Alonso if they were to stay in the hunt for the World Series. You know, Polar Bear Pete is made for the big stage. He can do special stuff, get those wow points, if you will. So if the Mets were to survive, advance, get past the Dodgers, and hopefully square off against the Yankees or the Guardians, if they can make a bit of a run, I think Polar Bear Pete Alonso could be the kind of guy that could make a bit of a tilt there through the World Series to keep the Mets' dreams alive, and you can still get him a plus 3,000. So that'd be the buy low number for me.
It is a buy low number, and I think that there's a lot of value because when you look sometimes at the World Series MVP, of course your team has to win the World Series, but at the same time, what usually gets the headline, Dubsy? Give me RBIs and give me home runs. You can get that at a Pete Alonso at a 30-1 price. He winds up, let's just say the World Series goes 6 games, he pops 3 home runs and the Mets win. He's probably going to win the award, but I do think one of the intriguing factors in, as we see all those players in the lineup, what's the difference here? All hitters except one, and that's Garrett Cole at a 30-1 price to win the World Series MVP. The reason I do think that makes sense is we don't look from a Dodgers side and say there's going to be a pitcher on the Dodgers that goes 2 games, 7+ innings, 2 wins, and being dominant with strikeouts. Garrett Cole, even though he wasn't that great in his performance yesterday in that Yankees win, he's that type of guy that can pitch game 1, can pitch game number 4, and then if you need him in a short start in game number 7, if he gets there out of the bullpen, he can provide that. So, Dubsy, what do you think about a non-hitter winning that award in the World Series?
Yeah, I think you highlighted what would have to go in favor. We'd have to see a lot of production. They'd have to be out there for a multitude of games, 2, possibly 3. They'd have to stay in each of those games, going through, 6 innings pitch and fanning out at a high rate. Garrett Cole certainly a play to do it. I'm looking at the Dodgers. If you were to think the Dodgers to get through, Yamamoto sitting at plus 10,000 plus 101 there, Donnie. That'd be the long shot if you thought the Dodgers were going to get past the Mets. But a great little market, plenty of plus money on offer.
Let's get a little warmer here. Let's talk golf next. Keith Stewart joins the show next.
Guardians, despite being at home in the land, were a home underdog against Tarek Skubal. Enter Lane Thomas, maybe one of the under-the-radar trade deadline acquisitions being dealt from the Nationals. He was huge in the ALDS.
A heavy favorite for the New York Yankees in the series. You're going to look to their best 2 ball players to be those MVPs. That's Juan Soto and it's Aaron Judge.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Final segment of hour number 2 right here on the early line for a Wednesday morning. It's Stubbs Anderson. It's Donnie Rightside. And let's get a little bit of warmth in this environment. It's Keith Stewart, our resident PGA Pro right here on the SportsGrid Network. Keith, how are we feeling on this Wednesday?
Oh, Donnie, I feel fantastic. Last week, the Black Desert Championship was a perfect preview for another desert contest out there, the Shriners Children's Open, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sin City. What better place to lay down a little weekend wager on some golf?
Absolutely. Let's have some fun and talk about it. It is the Shriners Children's Open, and yes, it is in Las Vegas, and that's coming in at TPC Summerlin. The purse, $7 million, a par 71, 7,200-yard golf course. Before we get into the players, Keith, as always, it's in Vegas. We'll get a little bit of good weather out there. How's this golf course shaping up for this weekend's action?
Well, Donnie, guess what? Over the last 5 years, the average winning score has been 23 under par. So the beginning of the week, people ask me all the time, they say, hey, Keith, what's your process like picking winners and everything? Well, one of the places I always look is at golfodds.com, and I check in Vegas and I say, well, what's the over-under for the winning score this week? It should be somewhere around 20, 21. Well, it was 15.5. So I said, whoa, check that at the door, because now I'm like, there's got to be a weather issue. There's got to be something going on. And in fact, there is. It looks like for rounds 1 and round 2, the wind is going to blow over 20 miles an hour. And that's going to take us back to a Shriners year like 2017, where Patrick Cantley won a playoff at 9 under par. These guys are going to get tested this week on a par 71 golf course out there in the barren lands of the desert of Las Vegas with some serious wind.
Keith, taking a look at the field and the odds board, it's Tom Kim is the shortest price at plus 1,200 in search of a third consecutive win here at the Shriners. What would have to go in favor for Tom Kim to get the hat trick?
Well, something special. There's no doubt about that, Dubsy. I mean, he would be only the third guy, not named Tiger Woods, that would have done this in this century. Steve Stricker did it, the John Deere. And, of course, Stuart Appleby did it at the Century Tournament of Champions just around, 2004, 5, and 6. So Tiger, of course, he's done it 6 times. In fact, 2 of those he did it 4 years in a row. But, I mean, he's the GOAT. We'll move on. But the John Deere, the Century Tournament of Champions, Vegas, the Shriners, this is the type of event he could do it at. But I have tremendous pause when it comes to Tom Kim this week. I know he loves this place. But the last time we saw him in a stroke play event, he ejected from the tournament at the FedEx St. Jude, finishing bogey, double, and outside the top 50, didn't make the BMW. Then I know he was the emotional leader up in Canada, but I was in Montreal, and he didn't play very good. He only had 1.5 points for the international side. So something's really going to have to take a turn. And, a lot of these guys have been playing for now 2-3 straight weeks, and they're really in fine form. Some of these other favorites really catch my eye over Tom going for the three-peat.
Let's take a look, too, because Tom Kim is a 12-1 favorite in this one, and then there's that shelf. You start to hit 22-1, 30-1. Looking down the leaderboard here, Keith, what are we giving up some options for some of these long shots?
Well, these favorites, Taylor Pendrith, last time he played was the President's Cup, but he came off 4 straight top 25s at the end of the season. Bo Hostler has been hot. Davis Thompson, we haven't seen him since the BMW. This might be a warm-up event. And then, of course, Seamus Power, Vegas resident, 10th at the St. Jude, 11th at the Sanderson, 11th last week at the Black Desert Championship. Hey, my early leans, Donnie, for you on the early line. First one, Bo Hostler, right at plus 3,000. That number's getting bet down. It continues to get bet down. In 6 career starts here, on average, he's gained 5 strokes total against the field. So he loves this golf course, and he plays very well in the fall. For me, he's the type of guy that could score a ton of birdies, and he's been playing very well. Runner-up at the Sanderson, 11th last week in the Black Desert. My second early lean, Harris English, one of the most talented guys in the field. He's got 4 wins. I mean, how many guys in this field have 4 wins? Maybe Daniel Berger, maybe somebody they're rolling out of a casket late like Mike Weir. But the fact of the matter is that at plus 4,500, the way he played last finishing 6th, Harris English looks super, super smooth. And we know he's talented. He's 54th on the FedEx Cup points list. And the guys that get between 51 and 60 get in those signature events. A win this week would go a long way to the rest of the fall off. And then he's out there for those signature purses come the springtime. For me, English, I just love the fit, the way he rolls the rock, and the way he was playing last week in the desert.
Love to see it, Keith. And by the way, I heard you talking in the green room here, getting ready for the show. You got a hot topic for us here? What do you got?
Oh, Donnie, I know you love this, and I think you'd be the perfect candidate for it. But here's the thing. Sports Business Journal broke a story yesterday. It seems as if Live Golf is looking for a new CEO. That means Shark is stepping down. Greg Norman is getting out, or maybe they're pushing him out. I don't know. But DRS, if you have a little free time, Liv could use a new CIO. Maybe it's time to, brush up the resume and send it over.
Keith, send in a letter from me. I'm ready to take it. That's Keith Stewart, our PGA Pro. We'll see him next week, bringing that heat.